The Toronto Blue Jays magic number for the AL East is 9. Wow. I'm not sure if that's even correct, but it is what it is. Welcome to Blue Jays Weekly Recap, Homestand Edition. How did the Blue Jays fare in their previous homestand? You're about to find out right now. Let's get going. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blue Jays Weekly Recap. My name is Scott McGregor. Please call me Scott. This is Blue Jays Weekly Recap, Homestand Edition in the last episode, but I should quickly note that this episode, as well as the next episode, will also be available on the ice and behind the benches. And without further ado, I want to, at the time of our recording, on a Monday, September 15th, 2025, welcome you all into the show. We're getting you set for Rays and Blue Jays, the 4-game set, I should say, which starts tonight. And I also wanted to wish, depending on when you listen to this program, hopefully you listen to it today on a Monday before the game, Trey Yesavage is getting the start for the Blue Jays. Is his major league debut. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Trey Yesavage. It'll be a great start, I hope, for you. Yesavage was just called up by the Blue Jays after the Orioles series ended. Well, actually, he was called up but it was unclear as to whether or not he would be active on Sunday, until Sunday when we found out that he would be starting tonight's game against the 73 and 76 Tampa Bay Rays. So once again, welcome to the show, Trey Yesavage. The Blue Jays record as we sit here is 87 and 62. Their record in terms of clinching the AL East is 9. How close are the Blue Jays to actually winning the entire American League? We'll talk about that later, but it looks pretty good as the Blue Jays have the best record in baseball as far as the American League is concerned right now. They also, as I mentioned off the top, are 9 games away from winning the American League East Division. Now, I don't know when was the last time the Blue Jays won the American League East and the entire American League in one season. Anywho, let's get into it, shall we? We're going to focus on this one with the homestand. But in case you missed it, the wraparound of the road trip that featured a trip to Cincinnati and then New York was the Blue Jays taking 1 out of 3 in the final series against the New York Yankees. They took the opener 7-1 and excuse my language there. They lost the other 2 games 3-1 and 4-3 to the New York Yankees on Saturday and Sunday, September 6th and 7th of this year. They also took 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati, winning the middle and final game of that series, 12-9 on September 2nd and 13-9 on September 3rd. The Blue Jays lost that opening game against Cincinnati 5-4 after salvaging series against Minnesota and Milwaukee at the end of August by taking 2 out of 3 against Minnesota, winning by final scores of 10-4 and 9-8 on August 25th and 27th. it was the 26th where they fell 7-5 to Minnesota. They would take the last game of the Brewers series 8-4 after dropping 7-2 on the 29th and 4-1 on the 30th of August. Those were Friday and Saturday games. It was on the Sunday that the Blue Jays took the game against the Brewers 8-4, the final score once again. Let's go to the previous homestand. One more homestand is on the way in the final 2 weeks of the season, which begin this week as the Blue Jays battle the Tampa Bay Rays in a 4-game series that starts tonight. They will then travel to Kauffman Stadium for their only visit to Kauffman Stadium this season. They have played Kansas City once at home, and a reminder of how that went down. The Blue Jays salvaged the series at home, taking 1 out of 3 against Kansas City, winning the game on August 2nd, 4-2. They lost 9-3 at the beginning of August on August 1st, 2025. That was Friday. Saturday, they won 4-2, which was August 2nd. And on August 3rd, they dropped that final game of the series at home 7-4. Alrighty, let's go to the current schedule. When we last left on Blue Jays Weekly Recap, we were talking about the series that led up to the Cincinnati series, and then, of course, the New York series. So now let's talk about the Houston Astros and Baltimore Orioles homestand series. At this point in time, before the series at home began, Houston, the Toronto Blue Jays were 82-61. And the Houston Astros, at the start of the series, were 78-66. One of the 3 top leaders in the American League West. That lead is now Seattle's. As we speak with you, they are 82-68, and Houston is 81-69. Now, Houston did not allow the Blue Jays to sweep them, but they still lost the series to the Blue Jays, 2 out of 3. The series began on September 9th, with the Blue Jays winning on a very special night for the humble hot dog, Looney Dogs night at the ballpark. Anyways, the final score was 4-3. We'll talk about Looney Dogs night another time, but it was on that night that the Blue Jays won 4-3. They set a season record for the most Looney Dogs consumed. I should say for the most hot dogs consumed in a single season, which broke the 2024 record last season. We'll talk about that later. Moving on throughout the series, we go to Wednesday night. There was also a day game as the last day game of the season for Work from Dome. That was against Houston. And on that day, on the Wednesday night, let's keep it on track here. We went through 4-3 winners for the Jays on Tuesday night. Wednesday night, they lost 3-2 to Houston, but they also picked up a 6 win over the Astros in Thursday afternoon's contest, which was the final Work from Dome game of the season. It was university and college night on Wednesday night. Again, that was the day the Blue Jays lost 3-2, which brings us to our Baltimore series. But first, at this point in time, the Blue Jays open up the 6-game homestand that they were currently on previously before their now 7-game road trip that begins tonight. They were 2-1 on the homestand to start the homestand, so they do start on the right foot where they win. They end the series against Houston with a win after losing the middle game on Wednesday. Let's go to the weekend set. That's Baltimore. And for those not aware, Baltimore Orioles manager is the interim manager of the Orioles in Tony Manzolino. So yes, the Baltimore Orioles are managed by their interim manager, Tony Manzolino. And of course, our Blue Jays are managed by John Schneider. Tony Manzolino for the Orioles. The starters in this series for Baltimore. Game one would be started by Chris Bassett. He would not get the win. So Chris Bassett's record remains where it is at the start of game time at 11-8. The starter for Baltimore in the opening game would be Trevor Rogers. His record that would remain where it is. Dietrich E. His record was 3-2 going in. It goes to 3-3 as he picks up the loss in the Blue Jays 6 over Baltimore in the opening game on Friday night, City Connect night at the ballpark. The winning pitcher would be Braden Fisher. His record was 4-0. It is now 5-0, but Braden would not be done. Let's go to Saturday, where the starting pitching matchup was the 5-3 Max Scherzer against the 10-8 Tamayuki Sugano. Tamayuki Sugano, 10 is the 5-3 Max Scherzer. This final score ended up 5-4, but the Blue Jays once again find a way to walk off the Orioles after they came back from down 1 run in game one and scored 5 more runs to win the opener 6-1 on Friday. Saturday afternoon, they win in walk-off fashion. As a result, Yanier Cano, his record was 3-6 going into the game. And yes, he did not start the game, but he was credited with the loss. So his record is 3-7. Braden Fisher, once again credited with the win. So Tamayuki Sugano and Max Scherzer, their records, just like Chris Bassett and Trevor Rogers, stay where they are leading into their next starts. Braden Fisher was 5-0. Now he is 6-0 as the Blue Jays get another win under his belt and improve their record at this point in the series to 86-62. Going into game two, they were 85-62. Baltimore was 69-78 going into game two. After game two, their record going into game three, which was on Sunday, yesterday, would be 69-79. The Blue Jays record going into game three, 86-62. Final score of Saturday's game, 5-4. It was for the fourth career walk-off for Alejandro Kirk, Captain Kirk, but it is also the ninth walk-off this season the Blue Jays have had. Kirk with the game-winning run, the game-winning walk-off run in the ninth inning, in a 3-run ninth inning, that which saw Joey Luperfido back in the fold, score Dalton Varsho, and also bring Ernie Clement to third base. At this time, Baltimore was up 4-3. Then Andres Jimenez strikes a single of his own to score Ernie Clement. Joey Luperfido to second base on the play. And then Alejandro Kirk scores Joey Luperfido to end the game at 5-1 at 5-4 in the bottom of the ninth inning with a sac fly to Orioles center fielder at the time, Colton Cowser. So Toronto has now won the series 2 games out of 3. They've won 2 games of the series. How did it go down yesterday? Well, once again, the Blue Jays don't strike first. But first, let me give you a look at the starters. In this game, the starters were the 2-1 Shane Bieber. At the start of this game, Shane Bieber he would get credited with the win to improve to 3-1 on the season. The other starter was 2-0 going into the game. He would not be credited with the loss, so his record stays where it is, and that was Albert Suarez getting the start for the Orioles in the 11-2 routing by the Jays over the Orioles to win the series, and also sweep away the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles record as we speak, with the Orioles getting set to go in a series against the White Sox, is 69-80. The Blue Jays will open up a four-game series against the Rays of Tampa Bay, who are 73-76, excuse me. And the Jays will open up this road trip with an 87-62 record. First pitch of game one is at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Pitcher with the loss for Baltimore would not be Albert Suarez, so his record as he came in to start the final game of the series for the Orioles would remain where it is at 2-0. The record for Grant Wolfram was 3-0. It goes to 3-1 with the loss. That was a big game by the Blue Jays. Let me just tell you this. That was a huge win for the Blue Jays for the division. Have a 4-game lead on the Yankees, and they are 5.5 games up on the Red Sox. So while the Red Sox pushed the Yankees back another game for the Blue Jays took care of their business. And I got to give credit where credit is due before that series even began. So shout out to Kevin Barker and Jeff Blair. The Blue Jays and the Rays open up a series tonight at Steinbrenner Field, a 4-game set. Mainly of all, I got to give credit to Kevin Barker. When Jeff Blair asked Kevin Barker on Blair and Barker, who do you cheer for the Yankees and Red Sox series? Kevin said, Jeff, I don't want to quote Kevin for what he said, but I will say this in my own words. Kevin said basically, Jeff, I don't care. As long as the Blue Jays take care of their business, which they did, we'll be good to go. Okay, he didn't say we'll be good to go. He just said, I didn't really care who wins that series between the Red Sox and the Yankees, because as long as Toronto took care of their business on Friday, which they did, and then they did on the weekend as well, the Blue Jays would be okay. Now, the magic number for the AL East is 9, which means that the Toronto Blue Jays would need the following to happen in order for them to get even closer to a postseason berth, which is 5 games pretty much away. And they would need good stuff to happen to get the AL East number from 9 down to 8, 7, 6, maybe 5, but definitely down to 4 if they can get a couple of good things happening. And that starts with playing the Rays. Now, at BJ Magic Number on what it now is called, which is X, but I call it Twitter still, and I will continue to call it Twitter. They said the following in this post that was shared with me. Jays win, Yankees lose, Rangers lose, but Guardians win. The updated magic numbers going into play today as Trey Yesavage makes his major league debut. For the AL East, the Blue Jays would need a Yankees loss, a Rangers loss, maybe also a Guardians loss as well, but they also have to win for the AL East to drop from 9 to a lower number. And the postseason, well, it's very close, but it's very likely that the Blue Jays, if they can win possibly 3 out of 4 against Tampa Bay, and then 2 out of 3 against Kansas City before they face the Red Sox, and then of course Tampa Bay is coming into town for the final weekend of the season. And say, before we take our first break of the show, which is where I will give you some key players that have stood out over the homestand, and then our next break I will talk about the Rays and Blue Jays series in a nutshell, getting you set for the game. But I'll leave you with this before we close out the opening segment. The Blue Jays at MJBJ Magic Number, I should say, said if they win, the Yankees lose, the Rangers lose, and maybe the Guardians lose as well. Maybe the Guardians winning is not bad, but if the Rangers lose and the Yankees lose, I think the magic number, as long as the Jays win, is going to drop. Right now, the postseason number is 5, and the AL East is 9. So just to finish off what at BJ Magic Number said, we are inching ever closer towards the postseason and division champions. Well, I wouldn't go too far to say division champions, but if the Jays continue to take care of business, even now with Trey Yesavage in the fold as a pitcher to give guys like Shane Bieber, Max Scherzer, even Kevin Gausman an extra day off or two, as long as the Jays continue to take care of their business, I think the Blue Jays will be fine. I truly do. All right, when we come back, we'll get you caught up on the scoreboard from Sunday and of course the Red Sox and Yankees game. Plus, I'll give you some players who I think stood out. And later, after we take another commercial break, our second and final commercial break of the show, we'll get you set up for the Blue Jays, bang, and the Rays. So it's going to be the Blue Jays and Rays after the second and final timeout of the show that we will set you up for, bringing you into the action with who's starting for both sides as we get closer to first pitch. Reminder that Blue Jay Central gets going at 7 Eastern, 6 Pacific, with the game set to go at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. 6:30 Pacific. So lots to get excited for. The fan pregame and Blair and Barker on Sportsnet as we speak are on. Fan pregame has you till 7 p.m. Then Jamie and the crew take over at 7 p.m. Eastern to get things started on Sportsnet Ontario East and Pacific. And don't forget about West. It will also be on there as well. So the game itself starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. But first pitch is 5 minutes after 7:30 p.m. And with that, it's time for the first break of the show. When we return, who else clinched the postseason so far as we get closer to the month of October? What were the other Sunday finals? Is it possible that they are a reason for why certain teams are where they are? We'll take a look at the MLB Sunday, September 14th scoreboard when we return to Blue Jays Weekly Recap. You're listening to Blue Jays Baseball right now on Sports for Beginners and streaming on the Ice and Behind the Benches. We have one more football show coming up on Sports for Beginners and on the Ice and Behind the Benches. That follows this show. So we took a break from football and now we're almost back to football. But first, we're talking baseball. Back in just a few moments.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. Two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show, And to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Welcome back to Blue Jays Weekly Recap. Blue Jays and the Rays getting set to go at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The managers of both squads as we start to get ready for those games. The manager of the Tampa Bay Rays is as follows. Just make sure, I'm not sure if he was fired yet, but maybe he wasn't. Let's see. Let us see. I wanted to let you know that John Schneider was the manager for the Blue Jays. And before we went to Kevin Cash, which we just found out, he is the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. Here's what happened. We haven't shared our screen, but that's okay. Here's what happened on Sunday, besides Blue Jays defeating the Orioles 11-10. It was an early start for the game between the Nationals and the Pirates. The Nationals picking up the dub there at 4-3. They improved their record to 62-87. Tigers fall to 65-85. Pirates, fall to 65-85. Now 10 game. Well, actually, if it was 65-75, it would be 10 games above 500. They're now actually 20 games below 500, which means they would have to win a lot of games to at least get even close to 500. But with 2 weeks left in the season, there's not a lot of time to do that. The Kansas City Royals knocked off the Philadelphia Phillies 10-3 in other action. Philadelphia's record is now 89-61. Kansas City is at 500 at 75-75. Houston Astros were defeated by the Atlanta Braves, who were 65-83. They are now 66-83 with the 8-3 win over the Astros. Astros are now 81-69 as a result of the loss. The New York Mets defeated the Rangers 5 in 10 innings at Citi Field. Rangers record is now 79-71. Mets record is 77-73 with the win. Let's go to Cleveland, where the White Sox battled the 77-71 Cleveland Guardians. The White Sox record was 57-92. It is now 57-93 as the Guardians beat the White Sox 3-2 to improve their record to 78-71. The Tigers of Detroit shut down the Marlins 2-0 to improve their record to 85-65. Marlins are 70-80 as a result of the loss. They came into this game against Detroit 70-79. They are now 10 games below 500 as they have only won 70 games and lost now 80 games. So they have lost 10 games and would need to win 10 games to get back to 500. The Minnesota Twins were knocked off by the Diamondbacks 6-4. Diamondbacks record as a result of the win, moving from 74-75 to 75-75. The Twins record was 65-83. It is now 65-84 with the 6-4 loss to the Diamondbacks. The Milwaukee Brewers are in the playoffs and have also clinched a playoff spot despite losing 3-2 to the 72-77 Cardinals, who improved to 73-77. The Milwaukee Brewers are 91-58. Going into the game, they're now 91-59. Coming out of this game, the Chicago Cubs improved to 84-64 with a 4-3 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. Hence why the Rays record going into play today is 73-76. So the Tampa Bay Rays would have entered this series 74-75 if they were able to knock off the Cubs, which would mean the Cubs record would go to 84 and 65. Instead, it's 85 and 64. And the Rays record is 73 and 76 going into play today. The Athletics knocked off the Reds 7-4 to improve to 70 and 80 on the season. With the loss, the 500 Reds go back down one game under 500 as they go to 74 and 75, losing 7-4 to the Athletics. Dodgers hammer the Giants 10-2 to 84 and 65. Giants going to 75 and 74. One game above 500 with the 10-2 loss. The Colorado Rockies fall 9-6 to the Padres. They are already out of contention for the wild card and the playoffs in general. So their record was 41 and 108. Now it is 41 and 109. Padres record is 82 and 68 with the result of the win. Rockies are 41 and 109. Let's go to Seattle, where the Mariners knocked off the LA Angels 11-2. So Toronto is not the only team with that win. The Mariners improved to 82 and 68. The Angels go to 69 and 81 with the result of the 11-2 loss to the Seattle Mariners. And finally, with the result of a 6-4 win for the Red Sox over the Yankees record is now 83 and 66, and the Red Sox record is 82 and 68. So the Red Sox move a game below the Yankees. Well, actually, half a game below the Yankees. And of course, they are 5.5 below. And the Yankees move back 4 games of the Blue Jays as a result of the loss to the Red Sox. Hey, good news for the Yankees fans. We won the series against the Red Sox. 2 out of 3. Bad news, we couldn't sweep them. Well, the Blue Jays picked up a sweep of the Orioles on account of looking at their 9th walk-off this season during the Orioles series and a 4th career walk-off for Alejandro Kirk. And speaking of Alejandro Kirk, that brings me to some players who stood out. Alejandro Kirk is one of our Blue Jay players that has standed out to me. I thought Kirky has been playing really well in this series. He had a couple of good days. Well, actually, he had a few not so good days over the course of the homestand, but I still feel like he's hitting pretty well. Yeah, he didn't have the best series against the Orioles, I don't think, or maybe the Astros, but it is what it is. Games are as they are. By the way, another guy that I thought had quite a game on Sunday, and he's our second standout, George Springer. He was named the player of the game in yesterday's 11-2 win over the Orioles with 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, a home run, and 2 doubles. Also want to make note that he did strike out. Kirk went 3 for 4 in the game yesterday, an RBI and a run scored. Shane Bieber. I have Bieber fever anytime Shane Bieber not only gets credited with a win, but also goes 6 innings. He struck out 5 Orioles, only allowed 1 earned run, and allowed 4 hits in his 6 innings of work. And yes, the Jays, I agree with that video there. The Jays, they broke open the game with the 6-run 7th inning. During that 7th inning, when the Jays had 6 runs come across the plate, I'm surprised that what ultimately ended up going into that 6th run, I'm very surprised of the way Baltimore played that defensively. That was just not good defense at all. That was not tight defense, and Baltimore was just beating themselves right there. I think even with the play that eventually led to that sixth run, I should say. When there was nobody out, I should say, for a while, which ultimately allowed the Blue Jays to bat around and get to George Springer, who started the inning with a double. I gotta say, I hope the Orioles realized that they were beating themselves and are thinking, even as we get closer to the off season for them, most likely, and of course thinking about next season, I hope they are wondering what went wrong in that game and why did we beat ourselves, because I think that's exactly what they did all series long. They had the lead, gave it up, lost 6-1 in game 1 on Friday, had the lead in game 2, gave it up in the ninth inning in walk-off fashion to the Blue Jays. I was going to say Buffalo, but I wanted to quickly correct myself and say the Blue Jays, hence the 5-4 win for the Jays. Then, I don't know what we were watching with the Orioles on Sunday, but oh my goodness, that was not Baltimore Orioles baseball at all. 11-2. They're lucky they got on the board, but again, they struck first, lost the lead, and then they couldn't get it back. Wow. And Blue Jay fans, we talk a lot about our bullpen blowing up games. Well, we can say for certain that the Baltimore bullpen isn't to blame for this, but the starting pitching was just not great for Baltimore. Was the Blue Jays starting pitching great? No. Well, okay, Bieber was good. Chris Bassett, I liked what I saw halfway through his outing, but I don't think he had his best stuff working for him. Scherzer went 5 innings, so I'm not going to badmouth there on Scherzer. I don't want to badmouth Chris Bassett for any reason, so I'm not going to do that, but I will say Chris, his start was decent, and Scherzer, yeah, I'll take 5 and 6 innings out of you guys. And that, of course, will bring us to the final moments of our show. So when we return, what are my expectations for Trey Yesavage in his first start as a major league pitcher? And who else is going to pitch for Tampa Bay against the Jays? Find out when Blue Jays Weekly Recap continues in just a few moments, right after this, from our good friends over at Broadcast Map. This is Blue Jays Weekly Recap, streaming on the Ice and Behind the Benches, and also available on Sports for Beginners.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
All right, thank you very much, Ali, for the ad that you brought in there. Check out all the action on Broadcast Map by simply going to broadcastmap.ca. A link will be provided in the description of the episode, as well as all other future episodes, so you can see what's going on Broadcast Map, as well as Ali and Makara's books, another podcast that Ali hosts with his good friend Makara. If I pronounced the name wrong, sincerest apologies if I did. Same thing for Trey Yesavage, who gets the start for the Jays tonight. Speaking of the Jays and the Rays, tonight it begins. The series with the Blue Jays and the Rays begins tonight. It is the second last series of the 2025 season. So far this season, the Rays and the Blue Jays have had we started our series in Toronto back in May, where the Blue Jays salvaged a series and of course went on to win 1 out of 3 against Detroit. They did the same against Tampa Bay in the opening series of the season in Toronto. They were swept In the first series, we saw these two squads play at Steinbrenner Field, twice by final scores of 3-1. And then on Sunday, near the end of May, the 25th of May, they lost 13-0, and they would go on to win 2 out of 3 in the road trip series against Texas, the next series, before sweeping a 4-game series with the Athletics to open up the month of June. So we haven't played Tampa Bay since May, when the Blue Jays have played at home against Tampa Bay and then on the road against Tampa Bay, in which they did not win any of those games on the road in Tampa Bay. Maybe that changes in this series. Blue Jays salvaging the series at home, winning 1 out of 3. Tampa Bay has already won twice in Toronto, but they also won all 3 of the May series in Steinbrenner Field in Tampa Bay. So what's in store in this 4-game set? We're getting close to first pitch time, which is 7:35 p.m. Eastern. So let's let you know so far who is on tap to pitch first. It's going to be number 30 Yesavage versus number 36 Joel. He is 1-3 on the season. Trey Yesavage is making his MLB debut. That is your starting matchup. The other starters for each game include Jose Barrios, who will get the start on Tuesday night. He'll go against who the Rays will counter with, Ryan Pepboit. Ryan Pepboit will get the start for the Rays in game number 2. It's Jose Barrios for the Jays against Ryan Pepboit for the Rays on Tuesday. What about Wednesday? Who's on tap for Wednesday? Both the Tuesday and Monday games are 7:35 p.m. Eastern, with the weather permitting as well. It will be Kevin Gausman against Ian Seymour. Ian Seymour will get Kevin Gausman on Wednesday. That is a 7:05 p.m. first pitch. Then on Thursday, the day game, it's Chris Bassett versus Shane Baz. So Shane Baz gets Chris Bassett at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday in the finale of this series. Kevin Gausman gets Ian Seymour in Wednesday night's game at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Chris Bassett, no, I mentioned Chris Bassett already. I should have said Jose Barrios gets Ryan Pepboit tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern. And Trey Yesavage will get the opener against Joe Boyle. Tonight it's the Major League debut for Trey Yesavage as the Blue Jays open up a series against Kevin Cash and the Tampa Bay Rays. A 4-game set, and the Blue Jays will send Trey Yesavage to the mound for his Major League debut. And on the other side of the field, it will be Joe Boyle. And since we're getting so close to first pitch at the time of our recording, let's give you a look at the lineup for Game 1. First, for the hometown Tampa Bay Rays, leading off for Kevin Cash's Tampa Bay Rays. In left field, number 14, Chandler Simpson will lead things off, followed by number 2, Yandy Diaz, batting second. Yandy Diaz, batting second. If I pronounce the name wrong, apologies in advance. I'll try that again. Yandy Diaz. I think I had it right one of the first times I said it. You know what? I'm going to go with YD. Sorry about that, Yandy Diaz, if I pronounce it wrong. If I pronounce Yandy Diaz. There we go. Yandy Diaz is batting second. Anyways, moving on. Batting third, it will be at second base, number 8, Brandon Lau. The designated hitter, who is also in the cleanup spot, as we would call the 4th batting area, will be number 13, Junior Camarero. Josh Lowe, the right fielder, batting 5th. Batting 6th will be the center fielder, Jake Jake Magnum is the center fielder, and he will bat sixth. Seventh on the Rays lineup, batting seventh for them is their catcher, which is number 40, Nick Fortes. Batting eighth at third base, number 10, Tristan Gray will get the start. And batting ninth, shortstop, it's Carson Williams, number 7, Carson Williams. And that's how Kevin Cash will approach game 1 of this 4-game set against the Jays. Chandler Simpson, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Junior Camarero, Josh Lowe, Jake Magnum, Nick Fortes, Tristan Gray, and Carson Williams, the 1 through 9 hitters in the lineup today. For the visiting Toronto Blue Jays, managed by John Schneider, tonight's Blue Jays lineup includes leading off and our designated hitter, number 4, George Springer. Batting second in right field, number 38, Nathan Lukes. Batting third at first base, number 27, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. In the cleanup spot, batting fourth, playing third base, number 47, Addison Barger. Batting fifth in left field, number 36, Davis Schneider. Batting sixth, playing center field, number 5, Dalton Varsho. Batting seventh at second base, number 22, Ernie Clement. Batting eighth and catching, number 55. And batting ninth, tonight's shortstop, number 0, Andres Jimenez. The 1 through 9 hitters for the Toronto Blue Jays are as follows: George Springer, Nathan Lukes, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Addison Barger, Davis Schneider, Dalton Varsho, Ernie Clement, Tyler Heineman, and Andres Jimenez. Catching Trey Yesavage, Tyler Heineman. Catching Joe Boyle, Nick Fortes. So it's 40 versus 30 versus 55. It's the number 40 versus 55 in the catching matchup. And number 36 versus number 39 on the mound. Spoiler alert, Blue Jays game recap will be back for the entirety of the Kansas City Royals series at Kauffman Stadium. But it will also cover the conclusion of the 4-game set between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of Blue Jays Weekly Recap. My name is Scott McGregor. I will be back with you following the final week of the season after the final homestand to break down how the Blue Jays fared on the road against the Rays, along with how they fared against Kansas City. And of course, before we get to how they fared against the Rays at home, how did the final series of the season between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox go down? You find out all about that on the next episode of Blue Jays Weekly Recap, our last episode before possibly postseason episodes of Blue Jays Game Recap, or postseason editions of Blue Jays Weekly Recap. And a reminder to our fans tuning into both this podcast and On the Ice and Behind the Benches, both this episode and the episode featuring the recap of the Red Sox Rays homestand and the Rays Royals road trip will also be available on the Ice and Behind the Benches, as well as this show. Triple troubles when we have to manage football? Oh, you can bet it will, depending on how long it goes. From the National League, the 2 teams that we know of are in the playoffs going to October baseball: the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers. We are not done with the Phillies nor the Brewers by a long shot from playoff contention start to fill up. Will the Jays make the postseason, or is there some rumor milling around that there is a possible chance they could miss the playoffs? As I had mentioned before, the magic number is for the AL East, the Blue Jays will need to win and have the Yankees, Rangers, and maybe the Guardians lose 9 games and 5 games if they want postseason. But all that matters for the Jays is taking care of their business and letting things play out the way that they play out. Can the Jays take care of business against the Tampa Bay Rays? How will that impact the playoff opportunity? Will they be in the playoffs when we next speak to you? Will they have won the division in the American League East? Will they win the entire American League? All questions to be answered over the course of this road trip and this final homestand that features the final Looney Dogs night of the season for those wondering about the promotions. And with Fan Appreciation Weekend, a weekend from this weekend, it also marks the final City Connect Friday when they open the series against the Rays in Toronto. A Friday from this Friday. Thank you so much for keeping up to date with us. 2 series to go on the road. 2 series to go at home. And then it's time for the postseason. That's it for this one. We'll catch ya on the flip side. Lights up. Let's go Blue Jays. Enjoy the ball games, everybody. I will catch up with you following the last game of the season when the Blue Jays end the 2025 season, regular season that is, against the Tampa Bay Rays on Sunday, September 28, 2025. Note the start time. 3:07 p.m. is first pitch. And a reminder once again as we sign off, every game on the 28th of September, every game is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Every single game on Sunday, September 28th is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. But first, we gotta get there. It is the 15th of September. So that means we are a Monday away from the final Monday of the season. That final Monday of the season may not feature Blue Jays baseball because the Blue Jays will open up a series with the Red Sox on the Tuesday, but it will feature some action. All right, I think I've taken too long. I'll catch you on the flip side. But remember, lights up, let's go. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.